They never thought you'd figure it out. Not in time. Not in this lifetime. They were counting on your silence, your confusion, your fatigue. This group, seen and unseen, had gathered in agreement, spiritually and emotionally, hoping to keep you stuck in cycles that weren't even yours to begin with. What they didn't know is that while they were plotting, you were evolving. While they were cursing, you were awakening. And now, the spiritual newsflash has reached them like thunder in a silent room. You outsmarted the attack. You cracked the code. You escaped the trap. And they can't believe it. Let's break this down with spiritual precision. Because not everything that looks like resistance is random. Sometimes, what comes against you is responding to the frequency of who you're becoming. The moment you started aligning with your true self, your healed self, your higher self, you became a threat to the structures that benefited from your confusion. You see, many of your enemies weren't just people. They were agreements, energetic contracts signed in pain, fear, or ignorance. And the group that's in shock now? It's not just physical. It's astral. It's ancestral. It's energetic. They were all betting on one thing, that you'd never wake up.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lessons.
But you did. And when you did, you didn't just break free, you exposed the system. You decoded their tactics. You started seeing patterns, the same kind of people showing up with different faces, the same energy cycling through different seasons, the same wounds repeating with different names. You realized this wasn't just life happening. This was spiritual repetition. A loop designed to keep you distracted, doubting, drained. But what happened next is what they didn't prepare for. You stopped reacting, and you started remembering. You remembered that your spirit was sent here with strategy, with reinforcements, with divine intelligence. And that's when the attacks began to fail. Not because they got weaker, but because you got wiser. You stopped telling everyone everything. You stopped explaining your movements. You started moving in silence, praying in code, healing in private. You learned how to seal your energy. You learned how to protect your dreams. You learned how to listen to vibration, not words. And that shift, that's what caught them off guard. Because the old you would have reacted. The old you would have explained yourself. The old you would have tried to fix it. But this version of you observe, you discern, you move with divine timing. Can I ask you a question that only your soul can answer? When was the moment you knew it was spiritual? Was it the dreams that kept repeating? Was it the sudden fatigue that came out of nowhere right after you made a powerful decision? Was it the way certain people seemed activated by your peace, as if your calm made their demons itch? That's not random. That's resonance. Because your light doesn't just shine, it reveals. And what got revealed in this season is what has been hiding in plain sight all along. The people who celebrated your wounds but feared your healing. The environments that tolerated your smallness but couldn't handle your expansion. And still, you rose. You rose through confusion. You rose through manipulation. You rose through energetic sabotage. And you did it without needing to fight fire with fire. You used light. You used alignment. You used truth. And that's why they're confused. Because they expected retaliation. They expected noise. But you gave them silence, and silence is the most dangerous sound when it comes from someone who used to beg for clarity. Silence means you're listening to God now, not them. And that silence broke their spell. Now here's where it gets intense. Because the group that once celebrated your stagnation is now witnessing your ascension. You're glowing differently, walking differently, speaking with authority, setting boundaries you used to be afraid to draw. And with every step you take in alignment, their access to your energy dies. You no longer exist in the frequency where their attacks are effective. Their words don't land. Their energy doesn't stick. Their projections return to sender. Because your entire spiritual code has been rewritten by truth. And now the question becomes, what will you do with this new level of awareness? Because being free is one thing, but staying free requires mastery. You must continue to protect your frequency like it's your life, because spiritually it is. You must be intentional with your thoughts, because they are spells, with your words, because they are directions, with your silence, because it's sacred. You must discern daily what you allow into your field. Because now that you've outsmarted the last attack, the next tactic will be imitation, fake peace, fake love, fake alliances. But your spirit knows the difference. And as long as you trust yourself, you'll never be fooled again. Take a breath. Feel your power in this moment. Realize this truth. You didn't just survive a spiritual attack, you outmaneuvered it. You used wisdom instead of war. You used alignment instead of aggression. You played chess while they played checkers. And now you are on a completely different board, a new paradigm, a higher dimension. And in this space, the rules are different. Your peace is your protection. Your clarity is your currency. Your silence is your strategy. And your energy is your entrance into every room you're assigned to. You have become the kind of person that spiritual warfare can't touch. Not because attacks won't come, but because your vibration won't allow them to land. You are no longer at war with yourself. You are no longer playing small to be loved. You are no longer afraid of being misunderstood. And that inner peace, that inner knowing, that's what they can't destroy. That's the bad news they received. That's what they can't believe. That you didn't just escape, you evolved. And now, the old weapons don't work. The old traps can't catch you. The old distractions don't seduce you. Because you are not the same. You've stepped into your role. You've activated your calling. You've remembered your mission. And now what was once a threat to you is now beneath your feet. Not because you defeated it, but because you transcended it. And here's the final truth for this part. They can't attack what they can't access. And from this moment forward, access to you is by invitation only, not based on familiarity, not based on guilt, not based on history, only alignment, only truth, only resonance. Because the real you is too valuable to be exposed to energies that haven't earned the right to be in your field. They planned your downfall but activated your destiny. Now you're untouchable. They thought they were building your prison. But what they didn't know was that every stone they laid was actually constructing your platform. Every rumor they started was amplifying your name in dimensions they didn't even believe in. Every trap they set was secretly aligning you with your next level. And now, the same group that conspired for your downfall is sitting in disbelief because instead of collapsing, you caught fire and you rose. They planned your spiritual demise, but they unknowingly activated your divine assignment. And now, you're untouchable not because you're above attack, but because you've mastered alignment. Let's talk about how it really works. Most people think spiritual attacks are loud and obvious curses, rage, open hostility. But the most dangerous attacks are subtle. They come as suggestions, little whispers of unworthiness, carefully planted seeds of doubt, emotional manipulation designed to make you question your own intuition. Those attacks are strategic. They don't come to destroy you in one blow. They come to wear you down, to make you betray yourself little by little, to drain your light one compromise at a time. But you saw it. Maybe not all at once, but piece by piece. You started noticing how exhausted you felt around certain people, how you began second-guessing your every move after certain conversations, how your mind felt foggy, your sleep disturbed, your peace fractured. You began noticing how your wins triggered unusual silence, how your joy made others shift uncomfortably. And in that noticing, you woke up. You realized that spiritual warfare isn't just about who's against you. It's about what is trying to distract you from who you're meant to become. And that's when your power ignited. You didn't panic. You pivoted. You stopped looking for validation and started seeking vibration. You stopped asking if you were doing the right thing and started asking, does this align with my soul? You stopped defending your growth to people committed to misunderstanding you. And instead of explaining your light, you just let it shine. And that shift, that's when the attack started failing. Because the only way the enemy could reach you was through your old self, and that version of you no longer exists. You becoming untouchable wasn't just about protection. It was about activation. You began to embody your higher self. You became the version of you that's not afraid to walk away, the version that doesn't need closure to move on, the version that doesn't negotiate with energy that feels off. You started using your discernment like a sword, your silence like a shield, your peace like a force field. And now, you're not just protected, you're elevated. Let me ask you something that will stretch your spirit. What if the attack was the announcement? What if the resistance you felt wasn't punishment, but prophetic confirmation? What if the warfare only intensified because your presence began to disrupt the very systems that were never meant to contain you? You see, they didn't just hate you for where you were. They feared you for where they knew you were going. And that fear disguised itself as control, jealousy, gossip, sabotage. But underneath all of it was a deep spiritual truth they couldn't admit. Your rise was inevitable. Because no matter how many times you were knocked down, you kept coming back stronger. Not because you were lucky, but because you were chosen. Not because you had the most support, but because you had the most resilience. You turned prayer into power. You turned silence into strategy. You turned isolation into incubation. And now, you're rising in power they can't replicate, because it didn't come from manipulation, it came from alignment. And here's the part that really shocks them. You're not bitter. You're not plotting revenge. You're not trying to expose anyone. You've moved on not just physically, but spiritually. And your peace is proof. Your glow is evidence. Your growth is the announcement. And that unsettles them more than any confrontation ever could. Because they don't understand how someone could be attacked that deeply and still choose love, still choose light, still choose purpose. But that's what makes you untouchable. You're not just protected by spiritual law, you're sealed by divine purpose. And purpose is the one thing no attack can alter. You've stepped into a realm where your steps are ordered, your path is lit, and your spirit is reinforced by generations of ancestors, angels, and divine intelligence. That means everything that was meant to destroy you is now working for you. The gossip becomes marketing. The betrayal becomes redirection. The closed doors become sacred detours. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is random. Everything is working in your favor. You know what's even more powerful than outsmarting the attack? Outgrowing the need for validation. Because the moment you stopped needing people to believe in your calling expanded. The moment you stopped waiting to be invited, you built your own table. And now, the same group that tried to sit on your destiny is watching you host the banquet. The very ones who tried to dim your light are now being blinded by it. And the ones who tried to curse your name are watching it be called into divine rooms they'll never access. But don't let any of this make you arrogant, let it make you anchored. Stay rooted, stay clean, stay clear. Because now you carry a spiritual weight. Your energy is not light anymore, it's consecrated. That means you can't move like everyone else. You can't speak like everyone else. You can't entertain what you used to tolerate. The price of this power is purity, not perfection but alignment. You must remain in frequency. Because your spiritual intelligence is your new currency, and your discernment is your compass. So now you walk differently. You speak with more intention. You create from a deeper well. You love with more clarity. You rest without guilt. And above all, you move with the quiet knowing that you are divinely backed. And that knowing? That's your superpower. That's what they can't touch. That's what made the attack fail. Because when your spirit is anchored in truth, you become unshakable. Take this moment and own it. You are not who you used to be. You are the version of yourself that rose from the trap. You are not just a survivor of spiritual warfare. You are a master of energetic sovereignty. And now, no weapon formed against you can prosper, not because they won't form, but because you've outgrown the frequency where they hold power. You are the prophecy fulfilled. You are the proof that purpose is stronger than plots. You are the evidence that destiny cannot be delayed by deception. You are untouchable. The spirit realm has shifted now. Everything must obey the new you. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when the spirit realm adjusts completely because of who you've become. That moment has arrived. You may not have seen an angel descend or heard trumpets in the sky, but you felt it. The shift, the silence, the sensation that something massive has been sealed in your name. It wasn't emotional hype. It wasn't wishful thinking. It was the final lock clicking into place on the old version of you. And now, the entire spiritual dimension has had to recalculate itself around your emergence. You're not just someone who healed, you're someone who evolved. And now, nothing can treat you the way it used to, because your energy is no longer available for distortion. Your frequency has become law, and everything, people, opportunities, spirits, timelines must now obey the new you. Do you realize what that means? It means the same spirits that once fed off your insecurity now flee from your confidence. The same patterns that used to seduce you now collapse at your clarity. You've become unrecognizable to your old triggers. That's not just healing, that's spiritual evolution. You've done what most people never do. You've stepped out of karmic repetition and into divine authorship. You're not reacting to life anymore, you're writing it. You're no longer trying to escape darkness, you're radiating so much light that darkness has no place to land. And that's why everything around you has started to shift. People can feel it. Environments respond to it. Even your presence in a room now creates friction with anything that's not in truth. That's what happens when you become aligned with your original blueprint. But here's the secret the enemy never wanted you to discover. The moment you choose radical embodiment, the warfare ends, not because the enemy stops attacking, but because there's no access point left. You've sealed the leaks. You've retrieved your power. You've revoked their permissions. And now, even if the attack tries to reach you, it has nowhere to land. You're too deeply rooted, too spiritually hydrated, too self-aware. And that self-awareness, it's not narcissism, it's divine responsibility. You finally realize that your vibration is sacred ground, that your peace is a temple, that your name is a spiritual signature carrying weight in unseen realms. And now, everything around you has to honor that signature or it gets removed. Not in anger, not in revenge, but in alignment. Because what doesn't match your frequency now simply cannot stay. Let me ask you something only your higher self can answer. What are you still allowing out of habit that no longer aligns with your new identity? Is it a relationship? A belief? A daily routine that's anchoring you to a version of yourself you've already outgrown? Because now that you've outsmarted the attack and stepped into your ordained self, the only thing that can hold you back is you. Not the enemy. Not the past. Not the opinions of others. Just your willingness or unwillingness to release what you've outlived. This is the part where the journey demands maturity. You've won the battle, but now you must maintain the territory. You must enforce the new law of your life. Only what aligns stays. No more negotiating with energy that makes your spirit shrink. No more making space for people who get uncomfortable when you shine. No more explaining your evolution to those committed to misunderstanding it. The law is clear now. You're not asking for alignment. You are alignment. And everything around you must either match it or move. And here's the final revelation. The spiritual realm isn't just watching you anymore. It's responding to you. Angels are being dispatched because of the clarity of your intention. Timelines are accelerating because of the purity of your vibration. Manifestations are arriving faster, not because you're striving, but because you're ready. You've become a living portal. What you think, feel, and choose now creates worlds. And that's why the group that once plotted your downfall is now utterly speechless. Because while they were casting shadows, you became a sun. While they were setting traps, you were building temples. And now, you're not just untouchable, you're unforgettable. Not because of what you survived, but because of who you chose to become through it all. And from this point forward, every realm must bow to the truth of who you are. Not by force, not by ego, but because truth is the highest frequency, and you now live in it.